The skeletal system provides support. It makes up the framework of the body. It helps in protecting major organs such as the brain, heart, and lungs. It provides the movement, and the bone marrow helps to make all the blood cells. It also maintains calcium homeostasis. Let's take a look at the structural hierarchy of a bone. So we'll start with bone cells, which make up bone tissue, which makes up the bone. There are several types of bone cells. The osteocyte. Osteo means bone and cyte means cell. This is a mature bone cell. Then we have osteoblast. The word blast means developing cell. Osteoblast means developing bone cell. The third type of bone cell is osteoclast. Clast means to promote breakdown. So an osteoclast is a cell that promotes bone breakdown. And this is accomplished by a process called osteolysis. Lysis, as we know, means breakdown, and osteolysis means breakdown of bone. Then we have the osteogenic cell. This is not technically a bone cell, but it is a precursor cell that generates the bone cell. The osteogenic cell gives rise to osteoblasts. Here is a section of bone tissue. Bone tissue looks like tree rings with osteocytes arranged in concentric circles. The bone tissue is organized into units of bone called osteons. The word osteon literally means bone unit. On means unit and osteo means bone. Now for the osteocytes. An osteocyte is supplied with long cellular extensions called canaliculi. These canaliculi are very important because they help the osteocyte to carry out their function, which is the maintenance of the bone matrix. The canaliculi serve as little canals that connect neighboring osteocytes with each other. The lamella is the concentric circle on which the osteocytes are arranged. The most important part of the osteon is the central canal called the osteonic canal. The osteonic canal contains the artery, vein, and nerve that supply the bone tissue. Lining each osteonic canal are the osteoblasts. And the function of osteoblasts is to make bone matrix. So what does bone matrix contain? Bone matrix has two major elements, protein and mineral. The protein part of the bone matrix provides tensile strength to the bone. In other words, it makes it more flexible. The protein that we're talking about is collagen. Collagen is a very tough protein. If collagen is deficient, it removes the flexible quality of the bone and makes it brittle. So the brittle bones can break easily. Now for the mineral. The mineral portion of the bone matrix provides support and rigidity. If the mineral component of the bone is deficient, then the bone becomes rubbery and it bends too easily, and this can lead to bone fractures. The mineral that we are talking about is called hydroxyapatite, and hydroxyapatite is made up of calcium phosphate mostly and a small amount of calcium carbonate. So the most important ion in bone is calcium, which is why the bone plays a very important role in calcium homeostasis. Here's a long bone. The long bone can be organized into two parts, the edges of the bone and the middle portion. The two edges of the bone are called the epiphyseal regions. The proximal epiphysis is closer to the attached base and the distal epiphysis is away from the attached base. The middle portion of the bone is called the diaphysis. The diaphyseal region of the bone is made up of compact bone. This makes sense because the diaphyseal region is the part of the bone that is most vulnerable to stress, so the compact bone provides a great amount of support. The bone is covered by an outer lining called the periosteum. Peri means around, osteo means bone, and eum means lining. The inner lining of the bone is called endosteum because endo means inside. The inside of the bone contains a cavity, and this cavity is called the medullary cavity. Medulla means middle. And this cavity contains yellow bone marrow, and yellow bone marrow is made up of fats. Now for the epiphyseal regions. The epiphysis of the bone is made up of spongy bone. This makes a lot of sense because the epiphyseal regions of the bone are involved in articulations. They are in the joints and they bring about movements. So it wouldn't do for this part of the bone to be compact because that would make it too heavy and movement would not be possible. The spongy bone also contains a very important element, and that is the red bone marrow. The red bone marrow is very important in making all the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. The blue structure that is shown covering each of the epiphyseal regions is the articular cartilage. The articular cartilage is made up of hyaline cartilage and it reduces friction between bones during articulation. The periosteum and the endosteum are the location for the osteoblasts and the osteogenic cells. The osteoclasts are closer to the periosteum. Now let's take a closer look at all the bone cells. We'll start with the osteogenic cell. The osteogenic cell gives rise to the osteoblast. The osteoblast is the developing bone cell. However, the function of the osteoblast is to make the bone. It does this by making the protein collagen and releasing it. Collagen is made in the rough endoplasmic reticulum of the osteoblast, which is shown here in blue. The osteoblast has large amounts of rough ER because its function is to make collagen and release it from the cell, where it becomes part of the matrix. Both the osteogenic cell and the osteoblasts are found in the periosteum and endosteum, which are the linings of the bone. The osteoblast gives rise to the osteocyte. The osteocyte is the mature bone cell. It maintains the bone matrix. The next kind of cell is the osteoclast. The osteoclast is the opposite of the osteoblast. While the osteoblast makes bone cell, osteoclast destroys it. The osteoclast is made up of many cells put together, which is why it ends up having many nuclei. The osteoclast also has many lysosomes. The lysosomes are very prominent because the function of the osteoclast is to break down bone via osteolysis. And the ruffled border that is shown here is where the bone resorption takes place. Bone resorption means breakdown of bone and release of calcium. So that is the function of the osteoclast. The osteoclast is found on the surface of the bone matrix.